Welcome to this how to play video of Starscrapers Cave-In. This is a game for 2 to 4 players where you take the role of one of the mining bosses who is competing to mine crystals, and your sole purpose is obviously to recruit the best mercenaries, use their specific skills, mine and collect precious artifacts. You should never let your guard down though, because your opponents will be waiting around the corner to steal your best guys and obviously take the best assets that you already have for themselves. Starscrapers Cave-In is a brand new game, a card game actually, for 2 to 4 players, which lasts about 45 to 60 minutes per game session. Everyone can play it from 12 ages and up. The rules are very simple and the game is very interesting, so it has some nice features for you to see. So before we dive into how to play the game, how to set it up and how to play it, let's get familiar with some of the basic aspects of the game. Okay, so the first thing that we see, which is really the heart of this game, are the Mercenary Cards. We have 6 factions of mercenary miners, which we call the Mercenary Cards, and each faction is represented by different color. So we have 4 different colors in the game. We have the red, the yellow, the green, the blue, the purple and the brown. These are the different 6 factions of the miners. Each mercenary has a level. This is indicated by the top left number, which is from 1 till 4. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, all the different available numbers which show the level of the mercenary. Obviously, the higher the number, the better the skill and the ability of this mercenary card, of this character if you wish. So besides the character, the strength, the level which is on the top left of the card, we have 2 more things that we need to see, which is 1, the faction symbol. So you have the color plus the faction symbol here. We'll come back to this, but you see we have the totem, which is linked with the symbol of the faction. So green have this symbol, this specific one has a level 3, and then they have an ability at the bottom of the card. These abilities can be either an instant ability, which means that the skill works instantly once this card is played, and it has the thunderbolt and the text is narrative, describes what it does. The other one is the one with the infinite symbol. Again, this is the text at the bottom, and on the right of the text you can see the infinite symbol, which means this skill works throughout the entire turn of the player who played this card. And the last symbol that we can see is the plus, which means that this skill works as an additional action of a given type, which players can take during their turn. The second element in the game are the artifact cards. The artifacts are valuable items that can provide players with very specific in-game benefits and award them additional victory points at the end of the game. They are collected by sending special teams of mercenaries during dangerous missions, and they recover these specific and precious artifacts. Again, you can see that the cost of the artifact to be recovered is on the middle of each card. So we have on the game board, the main game board, 3 piles, equal piles of artifacts. We'll describe this during setup, and each card depicts 2 different artifacts. So once you send it, I'll show you how your team to recover, say, this artifact. When you take it, you have to, the value to pay is 5, and then you will be able to tack it under your faction card, either on the left or on the right, indicating that in this case you got this artifact when you recovered it, or if you tack it under this side, you have recovered this one. We'll see how this works later on, so don't worry, but just to familiarize yourselves with the artifact, the symbols and the way they look. The text beneath the artifact describes the ability of the artifact, if it's endgame victory points or if it's an in-game ability. Since we're here, let's see the game board, which is this main board which sits at the middle of the table, where we have the location for the 3 artifacts. We have 4 slots, we're going to see them, that make the pyramid of the mercenaries that we're going to draft during selection when we pay to get them. And then what we have at the bottom is this cave-in marker, which slides over this track and indicates when the game ends for 2 players, when it reaches save cave-ins, 8 with 3 players or 9 with 4 players. Beneath the game board there are the mines that the people, the players are going to try to mine for victory points at the end of the game and set collection. We're going to show you how. And the next thing that we're going to discuss, since we're there, are obviously the crystals. So the third important element of the game are the crystal tokens, which you see at the bottom of the game board. They have this specific setup that we have different shapes. So you can see that these are crystals of number 1, which indicate obviously the mining difficulty. The number which is located at the bottom of the crystal, this is 1 for the yellow one for the green. So all this row has the difficulty of 1, and they have the specific shape that goes with this level. If you go even lower beneath to get more precious mine, to mine more precious crystals, you have the level 3 difficulty that you can see here, and they're a bit bigger, they have different shape. Then we have the level 6, and then finally the level 10, which I'm just going to slide a bit high so you can see, which is actually worth even more VP. So obviously the first thing that we want to focus on are the mining difficulty numbers, which will obviously link to the difficulty to get those crystals, as we will explain during the how to play the game. The next thing that you're going to see on the mining crystal tokens is this exclamation markers, which means that once you mine these crystals, this represents that these are difficult crystals to be mined, and by doing so you really push the cave-in to happen. So for each crystal token that is mined with this cave-in symbol, you will move your cave-in marker one side to the right, coming closer to the end of the game as you progress. The last thing that you need to check obviously are the VP, the VPs that you get for mining this crystal. And again, you can see that if you go to more difficult level up to 10, you get up to 10 VPs. The 6th one can give 4 or 6 VP, 1 and 3 for the level 3, and some of the 0 ones give, some of the level 1 mining difficulty, they give only 0 VP. You're gonna say, okay, why the heck would I want to go and mine this crystal? And this is for the last part of the last thing that you have to observe on the crystal token, which is the symbol. So you can see that this crystal token, it may have a difficulty of 1, it may give 0 VPs, but what it does is gives one symbol of this specific mining faction, and you want to collect these symbols because they're going to give you additional victory points at the end of the game. Last but not least, we have the command cards and the faction totems. The command cards are 6, 1 for each faction in the game, 1 for each color, and then on the back of this one you can have a very useful turn summary. So when you take this one, you can also flip it at any time during your during the game, during your turn, to see and remind you of the rules. But for the majority of your turn, this will be your faction and the totem you control, because these tokens give additional points and additional benefits, and it's again 1 for each faction: the green, the red, the brown, the blue, the purple and the yellow. So let's see how we set up the game. It's very easy. We have a few steps to follow. So first of all, we separate the crystal tokens into 4 stacks. You can see them here. There is a number at the back of the stack: 1, 3, 6 and 10, and this is linked obviously with the mining difficulty of 1, 3, 6 and 10. And again, you can really note the different shape and size, and usually you go to the deeper one because the bigger one, because the bigger crystal token is actually more victory points and more, and it's also more difficult to mine. Then once we do that, we shuffle each stack separately, take 4 crystals tokens with a mining level of 1. So here we have done this already, 1, 2, 3, 4, and we put it at the first row beneath the game board. Then we take 3 of level 3, 1, 2, 3, randomly, then 2 from this stack of level 6, and 1 single from the level 10, the biggest one. As a second step, we randomly choose 4 of the 6 command cards. We have those chosen, and there are 2 left behind. They're left at the right side of the game board, which will be actually the joker ones. And the game also suggests that you leave those 2 specific factions at the beginning, so you play a more easy game and put them in your next, or shuffle them into your next upcoming games, because they're a bit more difficult. But you can start with those recommended 4 ones. And then once you do that, you take 2 command cards, and that the one that you have not chosen, you put them on the left, and then everyone knows that this is going to be a joker for the game. Following, the third step is we separate the mercenary cards of the 4 available factions into 4 stacks according to the levels. You can see on the column here that we have cards of level 1. All of them are level 1 cards. Let me show you a bit closer to the camera. We shuffle them, make a face down deck and open 4 on the respective 4 slots at the top of the game board. As a second level, we take a level 2. Again, these are all the different factions. All the 6 factions are playing in this game, not only those 4 ones, but also the red and the green that we left aside. Again, this is level 2. We take them, we shuffle them. This is a level 2, and then we make like a pyramid. We open 3 of them and put it as a second step. Then, obviously, level 3. We shuffle them and we put only 2. This would be those 2 here, the top. And the last one would be one of the level 4, which we only have 6, as you can see, 1 for each faction. And this is going to be sitting on the top of the pyramid as a higher level, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, linked with the level of the mercenary miner. Each player takes 2 level 1 mercenary cards from this pile, and then also they take 1 level 2 mercenary card from the next pile of level 2. Each player then takes randomly one of the 4 available command cards that we have set aside to begin the game during the beginning of the setup, and then we place the command card in front of us, and we'll also take the corresponding matching totem to begin. So if I would be the blue one, I would take this plus that one plus 2 level 1 and 1 level 2 to be my starting hand and begin the game. Last but not least, we separate the artifact cards into 4 cards in each of the 3 piles, 1, 2, 3. Remember, each card depicts 2 artifacts, but that means that we're going to have 3 different equal piles sitting over there. And then the starting player token goes to the one who, according to the rulebook, is the one that have watched a Steven Seagal movie, and if no one wants to admit that, then we can select one of our own means of selecting a starting player. Excellent. I don't know how Steven Seagal is linked with the sci-fi thing, but it's a good addition and it made me laugh to begin with. So more or less this completes the setup of the game, and we're ready to explain how a turn goes and what is a gameplay like. First of all, let's talk about the hand limit before we dive into the gameplay and the turn sequence. We only have a limit of 7 cards, so if not stated otherwise, we can only pick up to 7 cards in our hand, and this is our hand limit. So remember, beside at the back of the command card you can have a very useful turn summary, which is what we see in front of us now. So each turn is divided into 3 phases. We start by the start player. Each player takes their turn, and then the turn goes clockwise. On your turn you have 3 phases. First you have the starting phase, where, as you can see, you can activate any artifacts whose effect take place at the beginning of your turn, and then you can activate your leader. Then we move to the second phase, where we can either have 2 different actions, we're going to come back and see the different possibilities, or raid the base of another player. And then we move to the cleanup phase, which is the third phase. We place all the mercenary cards played in the current turn into our active player's base, with a specific way that we're going to demonstrate. We then remove the mercenary cards from the active player base until only the top 7 remain. Remember the 7 limit. And then we can refill the empty spaces for the crystal tokens beneath the game board and for the mercenary cards above the game board. Remember, 3 phases. We start with the first phase, which is the starting phase, and it has 2 possibilities. 2 things can happen, also both of them. The first thing that can happen is that we can have an artifact with a beginning of the turn ability, which means, for example, this is our command card. Beneath there is an artifact that we have recovered on a previous turn. We have tucked it under our command card, and then it says this is a third cyber arm, which means at the beginning of your turn take the bottom card from your base. This is activated now, which means that this is the active player's base, and we can take this card, which was at the bottom of our base, and put it in our hand. Then what we can do is we move to the leaders. Leaders, we're going to explain them later. When you have what you have played in front of you is your active base. This is an example of that. These are cards that I have played. They can go up to 7, because if we have more, we need to remove the ones at the bottom of the stack. We always stack them by turn that we play them, so I have played first the red, then the green, and then the yellow. And at this stage, the starting phase, I can activate any ability that has that my leader has. For example, this mercenary card gives me the ability to gain one additional mining action this turn, so I'll activate this turn, this action, because this is my leader, and I will have one additional mining card for this round for me. One additional mining action. Then we move to the second phase, which is the action phase. Remember, you have either the possibility to perform 2 out of the 4 possible actions, or you can skip your 2 actions and decide to raid the base of an opponent and possibly steal 1 totem. The possible actions that you can have, the 4 possible actions that you can choose from, are the following. You have the possibility to recruit a mercenary, mine a crystal, collect an artifact, and use a mercenary special skill. Remember, the actions you choose, the 2 of the 4 actions, need to be different. Let's see the different actions in more detail. First, recruiting mercenary. Let's see how this is done. You can recruit a mercenary from the mercenary dogs by choosing this action. You can recruit always a level 1 mercenary for free, which means any of those 4 ones are level 1. And then you can decide to recruit a level 2, 3 or 4, which is 2, 3 and 4 respectively. But for each level that you're gonna go higher than the first one, you have to pay to play a single card with a level below the one that you're recruiting. So if I want to recruit a mercenary from level 2, from this row of the dogs, then I need to pay to play 1 mercenary card with a level 1. If I want to recruit this one, which is level 3, I need to play a card with a level 2. And finally, for recruiting the level 4, I need to play a card with a level 3. Don't worry, you don't have to match the green with the green, so I can play whatever color faction I want of level 3, what is important, the level, to be able to recruit a level higher than what I'm playing. The second possible action we can choose is to mine crystals. To mine off the crystals below the game board, you must play 1 or more mercenary cards that fulfill those criteria. The criteria are simple. You need to match the mining difficulty, and all the cards must be of the same color as the crystal being mined. For example, I want to mine this level difficulty 3 crystal, which is green. I can play as many cards as I want, but their value need to match the number 3. So I can play a level 1 and a level 2, which they add to level 3, but they both need to be green. This is a prerequisite. So all the cards must be of the same color of the crystal that is to be mined, and the sum of the levels of the card must be equal or higher than the mining cost of the crystal. Remember, if you mine a crystal with a cave-in symbol like this one, or that one, or even this one, then you need to move the cave-in token 1 step towards the end of the game. When you mine a crystal, you place it face down in front of you. You can always check what you have already mined in the past, and keep an eye for these faction symbols, because it's something that you really want to collect, since they're giving extra victory points at the end of the game. You see, this is the symbol of the faction, this is the level of the difficulty, and this is the VP. For example, this one has again a symbol of the faction for the brown one. It's a level 6 difficulty, meaning that I need to play a total sum of 6 or higher with the cards. All should be brown, and they will give me additional 4 VPs besides the symbol, which will give me extra VPs at the end of the game, and we'll see how this works later on. The last thing that you can, the third thing, that you can do with your actions, you can choose from, is collect an artifact. This is very simple. You can collect any of the artifacts that are currently on display. Remember, we have 3 stacks. Each card depicts 2 artifacts, and upon retrieving this artifact, you either tag it from the left or the right of beneath your command card, and then you have either the left or the right artifact available to you with its ability. So different artifacts give different strong bonuses and different abilities for the players, and the way to collect them is very simple. What you need to do is you need to play any number of cards, regardless of color and levels, that they match as a sum, numerically, the value of the artifact. Meaning, I can send a level 3 yellow and a level 2 red and a level 1 brown, which will add up to 3, 2 and 1 to 6 value, which would be enough to mine this. Actually, it will be 1 more, but anyway, I need to match at least the number 5 of the total sum of what I'm playing, regardless of color, and I will be able to take this card and select if I'm going to use it for the left, which is the prophecy, or for the right, which is the diplomacy. This will be active for me, and I will read the text and follow the instructions to be able to do the special ability or the VP that they reward me. And I need to decide at this point that I'm retrieving it if I'm going to go for the left or the right. This is a decision I need to take at this stage, and I cannot change my mind later on depending on my strategy or my progression in the game. The fourth and last possible option as an action to choose from is to use a Mercenary Skill. You can play a single Mercenary card from your hand and use the special skill of that card. Remember, when you play cards, you play them in front of you, one on top of the other, slightly towards the bottom, so that you can see all of them and see what you have actually played as a last card should be on the top of your pile, and maybe moved a little bit to the bottom. So for example, what I have in my hand is one Wedlock sapling with a level 1, and I can decide as an action to play it for the special text which is written at the bottom, and then what happens is I take one green crystal because this is an instant ability. Remember that if at the beginning of my turn this was on my base and this was the top card, this would be automatically leader, which means again that this text would be activated at this stage, because leaders are activated at the beginning, at the phase 1 at the beginning of your turn. But I can also decide to have, if I have them in my hand and not played already on my base, because I cannot pick them from my base at this stage, I can decide to play it for the special text and then perform the action that this card allows me. Obviously you can imagine that there are numerous special abilities and special skills that the mercenaries have, and depending the timing to decide which card to play at which point can make a whole difference to your gameplay. Again, as a reminder, for my second phase I can either do 2 of the 4 pre-mentioned actions or decide to raid an opponent's base. So instead of taking the 2 actions, I can decide to raid the base. I pick a player, and the first thing that I do after I selected the base to raid, I give the leader back to the hand of the owner. So if I'm raiding this base here, the first thing that will need to happen is this is the leader, and they'll go back to the hand of the player whose base I'm raiding. Then this is his remaining base. So as soon as the leader of the base that I chose to raid is returned to its owner hand, then what I do is I take the faction totem of the same color as that leader from whoever has it. If I was the one that already possessed the faction totem, then I still keep it, nothing happens. And then I take the cards from the top of their base until either all the cards of the base are gone or I reach the limit of 7 cards in my hand. So if I had already 5 cards, I would pick 6, 7, meaning that I would take those 2 for my hand. And this is a decision that I actually can strategize to make, because I can always see what's on the base of each player, and this is why the base always depicts the number of the strength, the level of the mercenary card, and the color, so you know what are you getting when you're raiding. We mentioned totems because, as you remember, we said that first of all what happens, again I'm showing what happens, is before I raid the base I return the leader to that player, meaning the yellow in this case. Okay, this goes to the back, to the hand of the player whose base I chose to raid, and then if this yellow totem was not in my hands, I take it in front of me. What are totems and why are they important? Totems are very important because, as we forgot to mention before, what you get is you get a discount for mining crystals. So when you're mining, for example, yellow crystals and you own the yellow totem, you get 1 discount because you own this totem. Meaning, instead of, for example, matching the number 10 for the difficulty 10 for this crystal, if I own the yellow totem, then I need to match number 9. It's very simple, but it gives me a simple benefit that it's always welcome. One more thing to note is, remember at the beginning of the game we chose 4 command cards, and the remaining 2, in this case red and green, we left them aside because these were not chosen from the players at the beginning of the game. These 2 also these cards from these factions are also included in the game decks, and are not removed. But the important thing is that red and green cards are now joker cards, meaning that you can use a 3 green as if it was a 3 yellow or a 3 brown, which is very important because these two really dictate which colors are the joker ones that can be used in addition to your cards that you have. So I can have a 2 green and a 2 brown and make them 4 brown because green is a joker, since it's selected at the setup of the game. So the last phase is the cleanup phase. This phase has 4 steps. First of all, without changing their order, I place all the cards that I played during this turn on top of my base. Remember, we haven't showed it live, but when I play cards during my action phase, I play them in a way similar to my base. So not on top of my base, but I start playing them, doing the actions that I have. Okay? And then my turn finishes. When I move to the cleanup phase, I pick them up with the same sequence without messing the turn that I played them, and I put them on top of my base. Then the last card that I selected to play would be obviously my new leader, and I count 7 cards because I cannot have more than 7 cards. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, meaning the last one at the bottom will be moved out of the game and back into the game box. So my base, after I finish the cleanup phase, will look something like that. Next, what I do is I check my hand, and if I have more than 7 cards, I need to discard down to 7. In this case, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I need to take one and get it out of the game. And the last 2 things that I need to do is obviously refill the start docks with the cards for mercenaries and the mine with mine tokens. So what I do is, for this specific one, there is a level 3, so I take from the pile the next, from the face down pile the next level 3, and I put it in this space. There's also one missing from this level 1 difficulty crystal tokens, so I fill them in. And then I do the same for the start docks. There's one card missing from the level 1, so I replace it from the face down deck. Then I'm ready because I have finished the cleanup phase. The game ends when the mine collapses, which it happens depending on the number of players on different game rounds. For example, as we said before, with 2 players, after say 7 cave in. For 3 players we have number 8 game turns, and with 4 players up to 9 game turns, meaning 9 cave in symbols have occurred. Once this is done, then we proceed to the end game scoring. Obviously we continue playing so that everyone takes the same number of turns, and then we continue to the end game scoring. What we score at the end of the game. First of all, we get VPs according to the crystals that we have already mined. So for example, if I had those face down, I would get 3 plus 6, 9 VPs. So we have different variety of VPs depending on the difficulty of the crystal tokens, and we add all these together to get the VPs from the respective mined crystals. The next thing that we gather VPs from are the artifacts. Some artifacts, like this one, give VPs for different conditions. For example, this artifact, barking up the right tree, 3, is worth 3 VP for each set of 2-3 crystals that you have, and so forth, and so on and so forth. The next thing that we get VP from is the faction totems. Each one of those that we have in our possession at the end of the game is worth 3 VPs. And then they have the faction symbols. Remember, the crystal tokens have some, not this one, let me get the correct one, have some faction symbols. This has the 0 VPs, but it has 1 faction symbol for the green faction. So what you get is, you get, depending on the number of players, depending on the number of symbols, different amount of victory points. So you score unique symbols. So for 1 you get 1 VP, for 2 3, for 3 unique symbols 6, with 4 unique symbols, meaning all 4 different, you get 10 victory points, with 5 15 victory points, and if you go all the way up to 6 different faction symbols on your crystal mines, on your mine crystal, sorry, you get 21 victory points. Obviously you can have different sets if you have more than 6 different crystal tokens factions mined. The last thing that you get victory points from is the subjugated cards. You get 1 VP per subjugated card. We didn't speak about subjugation. It's a special ability of some of the characters in the game. When you do that, you just take one other card and you put it face down in front of you. So for each subjugated card, you add 1 VP to your total, and then you sum all the victory points that you scored, and this is how you get your final scoring. The player with the most victory points is the winner of the game. If you get a tie, all tied players share the victory. So what I want to last tell you about the game is, obviously I have kept referring to the red faction, the green faction, the blue faction, whatever, but the rulebook does extremely well job into providing thematic details about the 6 different factions, so you can have a look at the end of the rulebook and really get into the theme and the different aspects of the different factions of these miners. Okay, so what I really like about this game is, first of all, it comes in a relatively small box, so you don't have a lot of things to carry around and a lot of weight. Surprisingly, you can see a lot of cards on the table and a lot of footprint, but it's a quite small game and it's very easy to take with you, and it's very easy to set up, explain, and get into it with your friends. What is very interesting and important to mention is the quality of this. Is my first game from Hexy Studio. The quality is really spectacular. We have done already an unboxing video and discussed a bit about the details, but everything is super bumped quality, from the linen tiles to the fantastic quality of the cards, from the artwork. This is linen card. The card is very good stock, a lot of variety, a lot of different artwork. Actually, the artwork is very nice because it matches the theme of the game. The ideas are very interesting. Mechanically speaking, I found it very, very intriguing. You have to focus on the top card to to build a good engine, but it's always open to the rest of the players, because you cannot have like a never-ending deck, because your base can be raid. So you need to do the best you can with your hand and just try to maximize its efficiency as much as possible. For example, the leader changes all the time, and then you have to evolve and adapt your strategy based on your leader, your short-term strategy, obviously. The artifacts are something very simple to get, because they're very you can get them with whatever number of and color cards you want, but they give you precious abilities within the game, and also very important end game victory points, conditions for victory points. The system of mining crystals is very nice, because here you have to you go for set collection, obviously, but you need to match the same color of cards, the same faction. For example, purple crystals. Thematically, the purple faction has more expertise on mining purple crystals. That's why you need purple cards to mine purple crystals, green cards for green crystals, and so on and so forth. The mechanism with the Joker cards is very good as well, because the game is played by 2 to 4 players. There are always 2 cards left aside, because they're going to act as Joker cards, meaning that you can use the red and green cards in this example as a Joker to do whatever you want when you mine, because you don't need to get only purple cards. You can also combine a red and green one from your hand and do the best during your turn. The game doesn't last very long, so it doesn't overstay its welcome, which is very good. Overall, I'm really impressed about the game, because it's a game I haven't heard about it, and I was really impressed when I saw the first pictures on the web, and I got in touch with the publisher and they requested a review copy. They were very happy to provide, and I'm very thankful for that, because this is a game I'm going to decide to keep into my collection. It's very easy to set up. It lasts only 45 minutes. So just to summarize, I think this is a very solid game, both mechanically wise and in terms of production and aesthetics and presence. So I really recommend this, you give it a try. For me, it was a very big surprise. It came out of nowhere, and it's one that I'm going to be playing quite a lot with my friends. So I think I would recommend this with no doubt. This is Starscraper Cave-In. Have a try and have a look about the game online, and where you can get a copy of this and maybe try it at your local game store or with your friends. Many thanks for watching. This was Epitrapaizoume.